All right. Thank you guys for taking your time to allow this interview to happen. About this video, I know most real estate agents or content, they show you the deals, the number, the strategy, but this is different. Not only about numbers or market. Today, we're just going to talk about strictly about how you guys feel, your thought changes. So let's get started. So bring me back to when you guys started looking. What makes you guys think that, hey, let's go buy a house?
Yeah, I guess my thought process in Houston is I dreamed about being a homeowner.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like in Houston it was necessary because I have family who live here. It didn't really make sense to me to really go and rent a space where I lived in my home for about 4 years after graduation to be able to save up and purchase a home.
Right.
So that was my ultimate goal was, still be in Houston and eventually own a house.
Yeah.
And I think the process that kind of catalyzed that was when he told my parents that we were going to get engaged.
Yeah.
And so that's when we started to really looking for a house to buy.
Okay, so it's more like a
life change experience,
right?
yeah.
Right. That event kind of pushes you toward that, making that decision. So, what was your initial vision? Like, what did the perfect home look like in your? I would say,
What do you think?
imagine it in your mind at the time before actually looking into the market.
Probably like convenience, location, like enough space for the things that we want to do.
Yeah, and I think at that point in time in our lives, we were young, right? Like we were basically early
you're
20s.
still young.
Yeah, we're still young.
Yeah.
We look young, but we were in our early 20s, and that at that time we wanted to be close to bars. We wanted to be close to be able to walk to stores and have that very nice feel because we both grew up in Houston, and it's in the suburbs. So I was in Katy and he was in Sugarland, and so we're like, yeah, let's be closer to in town and all of the different nightlife experiences that we didn't really have growing up.
Has that changed over time? Because I remember, for example, this house is actually the second house you guys own.
Yeah.
And so between the first and the second, has there anything changed at that beginning stage when you're starting to log into Zillow or HAR on the website to look for houses, and you have to select an area to look into it?
Yeah, I mean, like if you have once we started having kids, like I think the type of house changed. So like coming from like a townhome to like a single family home,
Right.
In a more like family friendly neighborhood, that was more important the second time around. And so the first time we were mostly looking at location. We didn't like age of home was somewhat important, but it wasn't like very important since it was our first home.
Yeah.
So we just wanted something that was like a good foundation, like solid build. It didn't have to be too new, but it also shouldn't be like super old because as first time homeowners, we don't know a lot of like how to repair the house, how to like maintain the house. So we wanted something like fairly new, but it didn't have to be like new construction. And so the second time around, like we wanted something, I guess, like more suited for like many years. So like the first home we consider like we probably stayed there for a couple of years, but maybe not like forever, right? But then the second home, because of like family and kids, like you want something that's like a better, longer lasting home.
Yeah.
So like new construction usually tend to hopefully last longer. Everything's like newer and you have less maintenance. So that's kind of the thought process of it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think another life change, right? Like at the time, like back then, it was kind of a party house because we had a lot of. We really liked having the 3 stories, like your living space in the middle, and then our master bedroom on the 3rd floor, and then we actually had a lot of guests and people live and rent out the space on the bottom floor, which was really nice. So basically, it was kind of like a terrace house type thing where people rotated through our townhouse. And then life changed, right? Like we gained 2 dogs, and at the time when I was pregnant, we decided like, hey, we really need to find a good area for school. So that's when another life change leads you to look up, hey, which areas have good schools, and that's where it took us to this new house in Bellaire, because this is very neighborhood friendly. It's still in the loop, and also it has a very good school district. So I think those are some big drivers for us to move.
Understood. Is it safe to say more of for the first property that you guys purchased or lived in, it's more like an interim home? And just,
I would say,
temporary purposes to kind of experience the life that you haven't got a chance really to get into, and to a point on the second house it's more of a long term, so your vision extended from 1 or 2 years to like return to schools, 10 years later, neighborhood, the entire area development. Okay, that's very interesting. Now, also back on that first property, since you guys have experienced both living in a townhome, more of a crowded street, to now you're in the single family detached, you have more privacy, you have your own yard, it's a quiet neighborhood. What's the main difference to you as a homeowner in terms of lifestyle in both? Because a lot of buyers, they're claiming, for example, 3-story townhomes. It's just a lot of space being taken up by the stairways, the hallways. The actual usable space is way less than they listed on the listings. But how is that your life accommodating to that? How do you feel if you were to go back to that stage again? Would you make the same decision, or would you jump directly to a single family at that time?
I would say
I think there's trade-offs. I think the townhome, you can get a much nicer home and in a much nicer area.
Right.
Usually the area is more expensive. There are things that we didn't really like. You're having to share a wall with another neighbor, having to share a driveway. Sometimes the inconvenience.
Right.
If you have to move a car or have guests over and they want to park near a driveway or near a garage. So having a single family home, it definitely is better in terms of privacy, just having more space. But yeah, it's a trade-off. I think having, I don't know about her, but for me, having that convenience of location is worth having to be in a townhome versus a single family home.
Right.
But I think for price appreciation also, single family home makes more sense just because more people tend to gravitate towards that type of house.
Right.
Because it's not just catered towards single or couples without kids or things like that. Or people who really want to be in the city. It's catered towards that, plus families and stuff. So it has a bigger market appeal, and therefore that house, the single family home, will obviously appreciate much more than townhome. So I think that's for appreciation purposes, I probably would switch to looking for a single family home rather than townhome.
But if you think about when you started off, right, we were in our 20s, we probably, even though we stayed at home for 4 years, you were in New York, you probably didn't have much saved up, and so it's very difficult to put down a down payment for just starting off in a single family home. So I think because we valued being closer to the inner loop, I think that's what ultimately drove. I think it was a good decision to have kind of an interim home, because it gives you more time, because your preferences change over time, right? And so at the time, you don't need all of the space. So it wouldn't make sense to have a 5-bedroom house for just the two of us. We didn't have dogs at the time, so I don't think people starting off with no kids are gonna think I'm gonna go and buy, a house in Bellaire just for 2 people.
I think the interim homes, if you were to look for a single family home, they'd be a lot older. And so unless you're one of the type of families or couples or individuals that really like to do DIY stuff or remodeling, upkeep, then it's kind of pricing most people out of the price range of having a single family home.
Right.
So that's why townhomes makes more sense for first time buyers.
Yeah.
How does that turn out when you guys sell it? Is it close to what you initially imagined, or would you think that maybe you'll be choosing a different pocket around that area at the time, or look closer into the number, or it's just a bigger trend in general for Houston area? I mean, the housing market has been growing for years. It's not really a big issue for you guys. How was your experience?
I think we probably expected a little bit more of price appreciation for the townhome.
Okay.
And then when we sold it, I think we stayed there for about 5 years.
Yeah.
But when we sold it, I think it was a pretty much break even.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which it kind of does. I mean, a lot of people say townhomes will pretty much just break even. They won't appreciate much. So in hindsight, The location, yes, was good. Like maybe we could have gotten something a little bit away from the central location that may have appreciated slightly more. Since we picked the more matured area, I think we realized it didn't really appreciate it when we sold it.
Okay.
But we also weren't expecting
Foundation issues, right, with the house.
Yeah, I mean, like there were some things we had to fix. So I think overall, it wasn't terrible. Like it was pretty much kind of what we expected, but just like slightly lower, I guess.
And I wish we probably should have done like a 30-year mortgage instead of a 15-year.
Yeah.
On the financial side. What was the conversation that you talked to your realtor when you first looking at that townhome versus now after selling it? Would it be anything different?
I don't know if there's anything different in terms of what we were looking for. I think at the time, like that kind of suited our needs. We weren't really. We were just super excited. This is our first house. I think people kind of, as like first-time homeowner buyers, you're just like very excited to own something that you're proud of, right? Like maybe your first purchase was your car, but this is like your second big purchase in life, right? So I think sometimes you kind of overlook the small details when you buy. You're like, okay, I can live with this because my number one non-negotiable was to be inside the loop and to be under a certain price threshold, and so there weren't that many options available.
Okay, I think if I were to like do it again, I think one thing I would do is not necessarily look at the list price and how much of a discount is off of the list price, but more of like what's in your budget and what's a house that you feel like is worth that price.
Yeah.
So I think like if I were to do it again, I would tell my realtor like, hey, let's get everything ready so that we can jump on something like that if it pops up, like a listing like that. Because I think a lot of times the good listings actually come and go very fast. If you're not like prepared to buy the home, then you're kind of stuck with looking at listings where they kind of just stay on the market and they may not be the best. And now you're having to fight for just a better discount or like a better deal, even though the home may not be what you actually want. I think there's actually value in trying to get the homes that only go on market for like 1 or 2 days.
Or like private transactions.
Or like private sales.
Private sales.
That's about to sell.
Correct. Yeah. Like if you have a big network, then I think.
So that the realtor helps in those cases. Yeah.
Moving on to this property, look at how beautiful this is. Inside the heart of Bellaire, having the chance to live in this very nicely built, I would say almost semi-custom built by Rob Ryan. What attracts you guys to this property?
For me, it's like the custom build. So the floor plan of this home is a little bit different from a lot of the spec builds, other homes in Bellaire. And so I think walking in, it was interesting seeing like the stairway close to the front door rather than in the middle of the home, separating the home. And so like overall, I think they did a good job with like managing the open space of the house. So a lot of the space, the usable space is like very open. And so you can easily get to things and use different spaces.
Had very good open space and a lot of natural lighting. And I guess walking in, it just felt very modern and chic. Because I'm used to seeing like the popcorn ceilings, and now the trends have changed, right? And it's more of a very difficult to make it a flat surface.
And first time walking into this property, immediately it feels like there's just more possibility in terms of offering more rooms, but it makes sense. It provides that relevance to not only to you guys, for me as a realtor, helping you reaching your goal in order to be able to live in this property, having kids, and for another 10 years or so. Furniture, kid stuff, items are gonna be like, you're gonna continue to buy stuff. You gotta have that room in order to put storage at least. That's the most important thing. Is there anything that you don't like about this house in the initial buying process?
I mean, there's always going to be small things, right? That I guess before you put all the furniture in, I was like, oh, I didn't like the hardwood floor because I guess they had a lot of showings and there were a lot of scratches that you can see from the naked eye. And then on the wall, there was a lot of like paint, because these are white walls, and so you can really notice all the like small imperfections. And I think there was some issue with the electrical wiring the fans weren't wired correctly, but those are like small things that you can probably change. And then after you put in all your furniture, I think your eyes tend to like not notice the small details anymore.
Yeah.
And so it kind of fills up the space, and you're not just like, oh, let me look at all the imperfections.
Right.
So I mean, it was frustrating in the beginning, right? But then when you really live in it, you're not gonna notice all those small imperfections later on. And those are cosmetic things and things you can potentially change, right?
Right. Is there any new stuff that you discover and that becomes more just unacceptable after you guys move in, or you feel like, hey, I just need to change it after, you know, a prolonged period of time occupying this property?
Like stucco, right? Stucco's always going to be a big issue.
Yeah, stucco repairs, but also like the door, I guess it wasn't like fully flushed. And so we had to get a door guy to come like make sure the door was like actually fully flushed, because we had a couple of rainy days where like water would get in.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that we wish like we maybe have saw earlier, but like had it like fixed before we bought the house.
Right.
And having an awning, I think maybe my next house I probably would want an awning,
like
because the rain, because
our
our house faces north, and then when it rains it like kind of gets onto our porch, because in Bellaire all the houses are elevated, and so it just kind of pulls a pile of water right by the door. So hopefully if next house or we can add an awning, I think that would make it a lot better.
Okay, so it's more on the actual utility practicality side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say overall, it sounds like, you know, either one of these two properties, none of them are any bad decisions. They're both good buys. They serve the purposes. What would you advise to home buyers who's currently looking in the market, despite what's going on economically or politically right now in the market? How to prepare themselves mentally and just tell them this is going to be okay because this is the reason after you move in?
I think just like find out what's in your budget, and also like make sure you budget some money for repairs. But whether it's new construction or older, like you still need some money in case something like pops up that you're not expecting. But overall, it's just like it's more like a financial decision, and then also trying to get the best house or that fits your style within your budget.
Yeah, and I would say, what are some of your like non-negotiables, and make sure they're kind of realistic, because some things may be cosmetic that you can change or remodel on the inside later. Those things you can change, but I would just really focus on if it's a good foundation, if the house like if you don't want to start from scratch, right, like and rebuild the entire house, make sure that you're finding like location. You can't really change location, so I would say location would be number one. And number two is making sure it's within your budget. Like don't go and buy something that's not within your means, and it's not just buying the house, it's also paying the property tax afterwards, and that's very expensive yearly, so making sure you can afford that. And then
driveway, garage,
foundation. I mean, those are, I guess you can't really change those, but then it's, I mean, schooling, right? I know, make sure you have a good fallback plan if you can't lauder into a different school that you're not zoned to. So having a good, school as a backup.
Cool. So we took a little time out for some milk tea break.
Yes.
So I guess my question, and I believe it's very important for a lot of buyers on the market, is would you, of course not now, but back when you were purchasing the first house, after selling it, you see the whole process, you see the numbers in and out. Would you think it makes more sense financially to own a property, even as an interim home, or continue to rent and wait for a longer holding property for a higher price point?
I think that's a good question. Like it depends on, I think really like if you know your timeline. So if you like know that you want a better property and maybe it's outside your budget in like maybe 3 or 4 years, then maybe leasing makes more sense. Right. Because with leasing you have the flexibility of like having a better location, you know, not having to need that much space because you're in an apartment or some kind of like smaller complex. And then I think like really like, but the thing is most people don't know how long they're going to stay at the home.
Right.
So like they could expect to be in a place for 2-3 years, but they actually stay 5-6 years, right? Or you expect that home to be your home for 5-6 years, and really you end up moving in 2 years.
Right.
So we don't know those things. So I think like that's kind of what you have to go into the process thinking is like, do you expect to move in 2 or 3 years? If so, I would say leasing is better plan. And then if you do like the area long term, and you're like don't expect to change jobs, like change cities, like start a family, then I think like buying a home wouldn't make sense in that case.
Okay.
So then, as long as you can afford it, of course, right?
Right.
If it's in your price budget, you find a realtor that helps you find a home that you like, then I think that makes sense to own that first home, and also like experience the things that you may not have experienced as a homeowner.
Right.
So like those things will be invaluable, even if it's like not ideal, but that's your first home. You still learn a lot of things by it.
Comparing on the holding expenses, let's say between what size was your first house?
I believe 2,300 square feet.
23. So I believe we're about 1,000 square foot more on this one.
Yeah.
Right? So comparing on the two, what's the biggest change in terms of just annual maintenance expenses on these two properties that you feel?
Let's see. I think biggest change is like definitely like utilities. So utilities are more for the bigger homes.
Okay.
So more electricity usage, bigger AC units.
Right.
What else? Maintenance wise, the newer home generally has less maintenance, so you don't have to worry about things breaking as much. I mean, appliances break regardless, so like I think that's about equal.
Okay. What year was your first house?
It was built in 2000.
2000.
2000.
And
Yeah,
you
we bought it in. We bought it in 2016.
Okay, and you sold it in which year?
2021.
Do you feel significantly it's a 16-year-old, it's a 20-year-old house when you're occupying the property?
No, I think actually, I think just generally it's more of the styling. So
Okay.
you can tell it's like more early 2000 styling or like late 90s styling. But I don't think necessarily quality-wise it's any different.
Got it.
There are some things where like the townhome, like you can feel like it's a little bit older, like you'll hear about creaks and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was more of cosmetic and like things like that. It didn't really impact like overall quality or living in the home.
So is it fair to say, excluding property taxes and areas and locations and all that, in terms of property itself, between these two property, first of all, the biggest change is actually the usage, the utility
Usage, yeah.
the things that facilitates the bigger living space instead of the property itself.
Right. I think that's mostly the recurring cost is going to be the utilities and things like that.
Got it. And the second point is not necessarily, let's say, because people coming from upstate, they have different build age, they're accustomed to certain age of the property or certain type of the property. Say, for example, Asia, it's all concrete and rebar. Then they come to the States, they're like, hey, I don't want to live in a 20-year-old house. I'm afraid it's going to fall down. But in reality, that's not the case, right?
Yeah, it's not the case. And I think a lot of times, like people fear the age of the home, like will result in like a home that's falling apart.
Right.
But I think like homes take a long time to kind of degrade, and I feel even if you have a home that's maybe not in the best shape, it's still not going to like immediately fall apart.
Right.
And it may not even match the timeline that you're going to stay in the home. So people should go into home buying with maybe like a little bit of pessimism, but also like not completely like pessimistic. Like a lot of these things, you have to just look at it relative to other homes. Like, comparing different homes, because it really like there's not going to be like the perfect home that is like fully high quality and like everything you ever wanted. If there is, it's going to be millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's one thing very important is just like you got to be able to prioritize stuff, and I think that's why where realtors really come in with experiences and their knowledge to help you identify, what's superficial, what's cosmetics, what's the selling point of this property. Is it the area? Is it the location? Is it the builder? Is it the quality? Or is it a design? Why is the design? Why is it different from, say, 3 blocks away that has an asking price of $200,000 difference, right? So, in your opinion, what was your expectation to realtors or maybe you can separate it into, you know, buying and selling phase.
So for buying, I think realtors bring a lot of value because they know if they see something in a property, like through the inspection report,
Right.
they know like what kind of issues will end up being like a pain point for that homeowner. So like let's say like stucco or like flat roof,
Right.
roof insurance, things like that.
Yeah.
And those things like maybe like a first time buyer will know. And so you may not have friends that have a flat roof or things like that. So when you hear those things, like you have to like think twice before you buy the home.
How is that different, talking on the same topic, with a realtor versus a home inspector?
So a home inspector is generally going to just give it to you more objectively. They're not gonna have any idea of like how much insurance it costs to pay for insurance for a more riskier roof build,
Right.
or let's say like stucco or things like that.
Mhm.
And I think a realtor will just have a little bit more opinions on what things could go wrong and what they've seen go wrong with
Right.
other buyers.
Mhm.
And so that's pretty valuable because I think as a first time buyer or any type of buyer, like you don't really know what the future is gonna hold, but like the realtor can give you some idea of like what other people with similar homes have to go through.
Great. So I would say for you, it's more important that a realtor is able to bring in experience and exposure from him or herself into your actual scenario to help you better prioritize your or allocate your risk management into this transaction. Right. Got it. How about selling?
For selling, I think generally you just want to extract the most value out of your home. And so I think for me, I think staging is a very big part because I think realtors know what most homeowners like in terms of aesthetic.
Right.
Because a home sometimes is a very emotional purchase.
Right.
And when you go in, you feel like this could be your home and like the setup, the colors, everything matches, and it just feels good to be walking through the home.
Yeah.
I think that's what gets buyers interested, and that's what they'll get them to potentially follow up with offers.
So from what I've heard, it sounds like there are two major factors here. One is going to be visualize, helping people come in to visualize what is it like with the furniture? How much space will I left, say for example, behind the couch and a wall that I can't remove it, right? And the second part of it is also very important. It's not the matter of whether or not this house is renovated, is how cohesive the entire style of this property. Are they connected? Are they relevant? Yeah, so it's really appreciated, and I think you and Shelly provided very valuable opinions in sharing your experience. Thank you very much, Kevin. All right, we'll try to make more videos like this for you guys, just to share different sides of opinions on either buyers or sellers, or like this time we have both sides opinions, so you know what's really going down through that process looking like. And a lot of the realtors, they'll tell you, hey, this don't matter, that don't matter. You have a real sense to decide yourself, rather than just listening to what other people tell you. And that also helps you to decide whether or not this realtor style works for you. Do you agree with this realtor's opinion or suggestion? All right, I'll see you guys next time.